All right. We are now live. Hey everyone, Chris Berry with Castle Wealth Group. This is where we do our weekly wisdom webinar, answering your legal, financial, and tax planning questions. So if you do have any questions, feel free to put it in the Q&A. And I always start with positive focus, just something positive that happened. Two things. First, kids are back to school, so that's kind of fun. Back to soccer as well. They're both doing soccer. And then professionally, just this last week, we partnered with AARP and we recorded some videos and informational quick tips that'll be on ABC, WLNS out of Lansing. So we're pretty excited for that. And they kind of reached out to you, or reached out to us, which made us feel good. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And again, if you do have a legal, financial, or tax planning question, feel free to put it in the Q&A. I just have one today, but if there is any that you have, feel free to put it in. And then, hold on, let me hit a couple buttons so that my screen is shared. Let's see. Still trying to share. There we go. All right. Just the one question here. It's kind of a little bit of a complicated one, but this out of the way. All right. Next question. All right. So if I invest in a fixed index annuity, can I have my asset protection trust as the owner? If I switch indexes, does that restart the 5-year clock? If I move to another FIA or investment, does that restart the 5-year clock? Yeah. So a couple things going on here. So first, we have that asset protection trust. All right. We call it a castle trust. The advantage of the asset protection trust is obviously asset protection. So not only does it control the distribution upon death, but also and avoid probate, but also it builds in asset protection, protecting you from lawsuits and protecting you from nursing home care or long-term care, which these days can run anywhere from $10,000 to $15,000 per month. So an asset protection trust can protect your money. So you can have things like your home in here, you can have investments in here, and you can have what's called fixed index annuities, okay? It's through an insurance company. Fixed index annuity, the advantage of them is that if the market goes down, you don't lose anything. If the market goes up, you collect the upside of the market. Downside of fixed index annuities is that you can't just pull all your money out right away. Otherwise, you might pay fees, and they're on kind of a 10-year chassis. So some people will take out like 10% a year, or they'll just use it as a growth vehicle. Some people in the past, and we don't do a lot of this, would be adding income riders, like annuitizing the annuity. We don't really see a lot of that. And I see a question coming in about that, but I'll get to that in just a second. So you can have these different investments inside of here. And so the question is, if I invest in a fixed index annuity, can I have my asset protection trust as the owner? The answer is yes. So yes, we can have the asset protection trust as the owner. In fact, if it is post-tax dollars, that's the best way to own the fixed index annuity, is inside of your asset protection trust. If I switch indexes, does that start the 5-year restart the 5-year clock? So the fixed index annuity is typically tied to a specific index or a mix of a couple indexes. So let's say the S&P 500, and typically each year you have the opportunity to, each year what will happen is that it'll reset. And so if you put in $100,000 and it grows to, it goes up 10%, goes to 110,000, that's your new principal. So if the market goes down, you don't lose any. And each year when it resets, you'll have a window where you can change the allocation. So maybe you decide you don't like the S&P 500 and now you want to follow a different index. You can do that. Typically, we don't. We kind of just stick with uh, the one or whatever the initial choice was. But you can theoretically change which index you're following each year if you wanted to. So the question is, does that restart that 5-year clock? Because keep in mind, when you move assets into the trust, you have to make it 5 years before it's protected from that nursing home or Medicaid spend down. So think of it as there's a 5-year race. So the answer is, if you switch indexes, that does not restart the 5-year clock. So if you did this in 2023, your look back period runs till 2028. If you changed indexes in 2024, it doesn't change kind of that look back or that date that you're protected. So the answer is no here. And then if I move to another FIA or investment, does that restart the 5-year clock? The answer is no. So inside of the trust, you can always change the nature of the assets. Like I was talking to some clients today, they're selling their house, so they're changing their house into cash. It's all done within the trust. You sell the house from the trust, and then the proceeds go directly to the trust. They don't touch the individual owner. So as long as everything stays in the trust, you're just changing the nature of the asset into the trust, you can do that. Likewise, if the fixed index annuity, if you wanted to pull that out, invest it in the market, you can do that. So, so long story short, yes, if you have a post-tax fixed index annuity and you have an asset protection trust, I'd recommend the trust as the owner, and changing the indexes or cashing that out. As long as you put the proceeds into a trust account, you're golden. It doesn't restart that 5-year clock. And then a follow-up question here: how does an income rider work on a FIA? Do you recommend them in some cases? So you have a fixed index annuity, and the question is about an income rider on that. So really, there's 3 types of fixed index annuities. And there's one that's just geared, I would say one geared towards growth, and I'm kind of simplifying a little bit. One could be geared towards growth. Well, I guess 4. Growth, plus you could build in long-term care as well. Or you could look at what we call a drawdown FIA. And then I guess 4th would be income rider. So these are all kind of different strategies using fixed index annuities, and there's different tools in companies. So growth one I like, because if the market goes down, you don't lose anything. If the market goes up, you can collect the upside of the market. So you have that principal protection plus growth, right? And this is a great bond alternative. So yeah, we use a lot of these as a bond alternative because people have worked hard to protect whatever it is they have and they don't want to lose it. We can sacrifice some of the growth, but then add in some long-term care benefits to this as well. Not as much growth, but if we can get some long-term care benefits, even if someone has like Alzheimer's or dementia, like there's no underwriting. So it's a tool we can use to build in some long-term care protections as well as growth. We do some of those. Drawdown annuities, this is where we just take out 10% of whatever the account or the premium value is each year. So I just met with a client. We did 600,000 inside of a drawdown annuity. And so each year we're pulling out $60,000 worth of income. So we're going to collect the upside over the next 10 years, but over the next 10 years, we're going to pull out 60,000. So we do a fair amount of those. Income rider, I'm not a big fan of because now you start talking about, when you start talking about riders, you're talking about fees, okay? And also I think these are oversold because people talk about like, hey, I'm getting like a 35% bonus on this. That bonus only applies to this made up number, which is the income value. So there's 2 things with the annuity. You have account value. That's the true actual value. Like you pass away, you get that full account value. And then if annuity has an income rider, they talk about like income value. Okay. And what they're going to do is this is kind of like a gussied up number, and the income value always will be higher. But what they do is they say, okay, if you wait 10 years, now you can take out 5% based off of whatever the income value is instead of the account value. And then they say your income value, like bad annuity salesman will say, show you the illustration and show, look, there's a 35% bonus, but it's on this income value, which is a made up number. So I think they're oversold. I don't do income riders. And I forget exactly what the statistic is, but 85% of the individuals or families who purchased these income riders, so paid additional fees, 85% of them never turned on the income rider, because typically people are taking the money out through the free withdrawals. So long story short, I'm not a big fan of fixed index annuities with income riders. I'm not saying you never should use them. It's just a tool that I think there's better ways to do things. Let's put it that way. All right. So that's had a couple more questions come in here. We're planning on setting up trust for our grandchildren. What is the best investment for long-term growth that minimizes or eliminates future taxes? Okay, so we're planning for grandkids. Talking about setting up trusts, and we're looking at investments, and we want to minimize taxes and maximize growth. So there's two things. One is setting up a trust. So if you're, So the question I would have is, are you going to be the trustee managing this for the grandkids, or not? But we can set up a trust where the assets could be protected for the benefit of the grandkids. We did something similar. Husband passed away, left a ton of life insurance to the wife, and then these two adult children. One was 18, one was 21. And instead of it being owned by the individual children, yes, we'll be the trustees. Okay. Instead of being owned by the individual children, it was owned by an asset protection trust, and the kids, once they reach a certain age, would be the trustees of their trust. So in this situation, the person just wrote in, they're going to be trustees. So here's you. We would set up an asset protection trust typically, because now the advantage of the asset protection trust is you're protecting against like divorces, creditors, and you can make sure the money stays in the bloodline. Plus, if you pass away, you can appoint someone else as a trustee. So we're setting up trust, and that's a great idea. And I would set it up as an asset protection trust. And then, so that's the first step, is to create the trust. Then the next thing is, okay, what are we going to put into the trust? So things that you can put into the trust, you can put like a brokerage account or investment account. You could put real estate into the trust. I have one client right now that's doing this for estate tax purposes, buying a big piece of real estate, very expensive, as an investment in a vacation home. We're putting it into an asset protection trust. We're removing it from his estate, and now it's going to go down to the kids. Brokerage, real estate, life insurance can go into this. Yeah. Annuities, fixed index annuities can go into this. But so this is what cannot, and here's the thing, what cannot go into the trust. So cannot go into the trust, things like a Roth. You can't open up a trust and then put a Roth account in there. Likewise, IRAs cannot go into the trust. This type of trust, this specific type of trust. Other trusts we can talk about differently, but for what you're trying to accomplish here, these things couldn't go in here. because these are what we call qualified accounts. They have to be in the owner's name unless you pass away. So problem with the brokerage account is there's going to be capital gains. Real estate, that's kind of illiquid. Life insurance is kind of an interesting option because life insurance can grow tax-free. And you can pull out the proceeds tax-free. Fixed index annuity, you're going to have taxes. So really, you're a little bit limited. Like the government's going to want to take their cut. The most common thing would be to open up like a brokerage account and invest aggressively for growth. Yeah, they'd have to pay capital gains, but that's going to maximize the return over a long period of time. You could look at like treasury bills or something like that. That grows tax-free, but it's not going to grow long term as much as like just a investment account with equities. And if this is long term, I'd be aggressive of it. A little bit of a tricky choice would be life insurance, because this theoretically could grow. I don't know what rates are right now. Anywhere like could average, depending on how the markets do, like 10% a year. I'm not saying it is, but a lot of times there'll be a cap at 10%. So you might look at growth of anywhere from 0 to 10% each year, but the proceeds could be taken out tax-free. Like I have some cash value life insurance that I'm using to fund my kids' college education, where I'm going to pull that money out tax-free in the future. So yeah, the easy answer is just an investment account. But again, you're going to have to pay capital gains on that. Off the top of my head, I can't think of anything else that would minimize taxes, still give you long-term growth, and be invested in the trust. Really, the only one that would meet all of those requirements would be the life insurance. A little more complicated. You could have the life insurance on the kid. We've done that before. But yeah, so hopefully that was helpful. All right. Let's see if any other questions. That's all we got. All right. Well, I appreciate those questions. Thank you so much. Make it a great week. See you next week. Take care. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.